And of course, campus anti-Semitism is not a uniquely American problem. So let's meet some international campus leaders from Stand With Us who are countering anti-Semitism and standing up for Israel from around the world. Let's meet our panel. Joining me today from some very different time zones are Adam Marks from Stand With Us Australia, Isabella Bouillon from Stand With Us Brazil, Jesse Piltz from Stand With Us Netherlands, and Annie Gishen from Stand With Us UK. Thank you all very much for being here. Let me turn to you first, Jesse. What's it like being a Jewish student on campus in Europe right now?
It's very intense. There's definitely a lot of fear that a lot of students feel within their own classrooms, within their own social circles of friends. Over the last year, we have really gotten a taste of what it's like dealing with the anti-Israel movement really coming into full manifestation. And now a lot of us are really trying to be proactive in how we respond, how we stay resilient during these difficult times, and how we can better educate our peers and faculty around.
Really important. And I will come to you in a moment about some of those strategies that you're employing. Adam, let me turn to you. Australia was seen as a place with less anti-Semitism until October the 7th came around. So tell us how it's been over there.
Unfortunately, in the months following October 7, we've seen a 700% increase in anti-Semitic incidences around Australia. It doesn't matter whether you live in a major city or not. It is incredibly frightening. In fact, there's just a judicial Senate inquiry that has taken place specifically for university campuses. And some of the anti-Semitic sentiment that has come out from real-life experiences of students on campus is just beyond comprehension. It doesn't feel like we're living in 2024. We can go back 80 years and the same things were being said. So, stay tuned to see how we deal with it in the coming years.
Thanks for that update. Annie, we've seen some horrible pro-Hamas rallies on the streets of London every Saturday. So how has that atmosphere permeated on campus?
It's become really difficult for us on campus. I went to a small Scottish university, so I didn't have the mass rallies, but I did become acutely aware of my, Judaism becoming the thing that people really focused on. And I was acutely aware walking down the street of my campus that people would look at my Magen David and think that I was Jewish. We had instances where students at my university had to move out of their houses because of anti-Semitic instances. We had an example in Leeds University where the Jewish chaplains were driven off campus as a result of anti-Semitic threats. So, it's not been an easy year for us in the UK.
And of course, Isabella, in Brazil, 3 months after October the 7th, your new president was elected and a much more hostile government towards Israel. What's it been like for students, though?
It has been very complicated. Anti-Semitism was never a big problem here in Brazil, but since the October 7th and the war, it has been very, very difficult. Brazil has two major types of universities: the federal universities, which are directly controlled by the government, the federal government and the state government. So it's a bit complicated on those. And there's private universities where the situation hasn't been the best. There's cases here in São Paulo of Jewish students being told that they would be thrown out of buildings by their peers, and it has been very complicated. But we have a very close-knit community, so everyone has been coming together to combat anti-Semitism.
So, Jesse, how have you built a network to combat anti-Semitism? How have you learned from each other and been able to support each other there?
So, of course, a natural instinct is to be in touch with a lot of people within Jewish circles. So naturally going to my Jewish student union is a big help. But I also try to look beyond just the Jewish community and trying to see if I can really bring the non-Jewish voices just to be able to listen. So I will utilize people from my faculty, for example, and find ways in which if the conversation comes up related to the current war or the broader conflict, so to say, there are ways in which I can approach even non-Jews in talking about these sorts of issues. in a very compassionate but very informative way. But it's just a matter of finding people who are willing to listen, to be able to find a way to be able to fight back as to what we are seeing over the past year, and even to a certain extent years before.
Yeah, building coalitions with people is very important. Annie, one word we often hear about is allyship. So have you found there are allies on the ground willing to work with you to fight against anti-Semitism?
Some of our loudest voices on campus were, non-Jewish, non-affiliated, personally affiliated people. And it's been really remarkable to see actually people standing up for us and on our behalf on campus, especially knowing the kind of consequences that they could face socially and academically as a result of that. I personally have made, really strong connections with people who previously didn't really have a connection to Israel, but felt as though they needed to speak for us.
And I want to ask you, Isabella, how have you been able to support students who found themselves worried or intimidated by what's going on?
So we have created a very big network with Jewish students around the country. And also we work very closely with CONIBI, which is the federal Jewish institution here in Brazil, and other state-led federations such as FISESP, FIERJ in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. And we have been able to reach out to a lot of universities and start new projects such as bringing lectures about Israel and the conflict and Judaism to their campuses. And just now, last week, we were able to schedule a meeting with the pastor of a university, a Christian university here in São Paulo, which had the biggest number of antisemitism. And they are signing the IHRA definition of antisemitism to combat antisemitism inside their campus.
Really important, and something that we really need to insist around the world, that people sign on to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, the gold standard definition of anti-Semitism. Adam, let me turn to you. You're leading Stand With Us activity there on campus in Australia. What's that look like for you?
So we are on the verge of completing our first cohort of Emerson Fellows, an unbelievable prestigious program that we brought to Australia this year. We are opening applications the next couple of weeks, and we really see this as the future of the leaders of our Jewish community. We started off with a cohort of 10. We're moving up 14, 16, potentially even 20 fellows next year, not only in Sydney and Melbourne, but also in Perth and Canberra and beyond. And we really see them as the future. We're aiming to train them and empower them to be the most confident and courageous leaders that they can be. And ultimately, they will lead their fellow peers in the coming years, both on university campuses and in the Jewish communities beyond. We're looking to work with communities and various groups all over, whether Jewish or non-Jewish, and ultimately empower them to make these connections that will last not only today, but for tomorrow and for the future ahead.
And I want to ask you all the same question now, which is that, it's a new academic year. There'll be many Jewish students feeling worried as they're starting university. What message do you want to give them? What do you want to tell them? What lessons should they know before they step foot onto campus? Let's go to you first, Annie.
My message is really simple. I think, you should never hide your Jewish or Zionist identity when you're at university. Always tell people proudly that you're Jewish, that you're Zionist, that you love Israel, and, just be proud of who you are and don't be scared to speak up.
And Jesse, let me ask you the same question. European students, what's your message to them?
I agree with Annie in not feeling this need to hide your identity. It is important that we do show that we are Jewish and that we're proud and that we're not going anywhere. And yeah, my biggest advice is just really being resilient and showing strength. Yes, these are difficult times, but it's important for a lot of us in spaces throughout Europe and even beyond the world that we do have a space in these universities, and it is our responsibility to be bringing that light to people all over the world, as we know in our ancient traditions.
Absolutely. And Isabella, let me ask you, what's your message to students beginning their academic career this year?
Completing what Annie and Jesse said, I think that it's very important for Jewish students to remember that they're not alone. They have a community that supports them and also Stand With Us around the world. that is always here to help students in this very difficult moment. So I just hope they'll remember that they're not alone, and they need to be proud of being Jewish and being part of such a beautiful community.
Thank you, Isabella. And finally, Adam, the last word from Australia. What's your message to those joining campus this year and also those who are already on university?
Following on from all these incredible campus leaders from around the world, I'd like to share a lesson I learned from Charlotte Korczak. And she shared with me that there are 3 types of anti-Semitism. There's Islamic anti-Semitism, left-wing and right-wing. I'd like to talk about the left versus the right. One way to protect yourself against right-wing anti-Semitism is to protect yourself, to protect your physical self. And in Australia, we do that through CS3, through the local volunteer community security group. That's one way to do it. However, with left-wing anti-Semitism, it's a bit different. The only way to protect yourself against that, to stand up against it, is to be more Jewish, to be proud to be yourself, to wear your Magen David out, to do acts of chesed and acts of goodwill with your kippah on, with your tzitzit hang out, whatever it may be. Be more Jewish, wherever it is, wherever you can. That's the way to defeat anti-Semitism. So go out and do it.
That's a great message of pride to end with. I really want to thank you for being Stand With Us stars, leading your peers on campus from all over the world. Big thanks for all that you do to Adam in Australia, Isabella in Brazil, Jesse in Europe, and Annie in the UK. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.